Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy forecast for May 2022. So on May 10th, we have two major events taking place. The first one is Mercury going retrograde. If you haven't listened to the intro for May's energy forecast, I'm going to recommend that you go do that. It'll give you a little bit of an overview of how all of these astro events work together, building us up for certain endings in order for certain beginnings to actually have a space to be initiated. But Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, of communication, it's basically the logical, practical, egoic level of our brain. It's how we perceive our environment, the information and details that we pluck out of it, how we form opinions, how we actually communicate and express those opinions, those thoughts, those ideas outwardly. Mercury is in Gemini energy. Mercury rules over Gemini. And in Gemini energy, we are very divided, not only in our mental plane with different choices, different decisions, different paths unfolding, but we're very divided between our heart and our head as well. Gemini rules over the twins, represented by the twins. And of course, that means that we have 1 foot in our ego, 1 foot in the spirit realm. We have 1 foot in the shadow realm, 1 foot in the light realm. And basically, it's up to us to debate it out within ourselves in order to find that middle ground. Now, Mercury's going retrograde in its place of power, which means that we got to stop. We got to look back. This isn't the best time for new ideas. This isn't the best time for, new information coming in. Instead, we're going to review a lot. Now, typically speaking, typical Mercury retrograde signs and symbols are miscommunication. So we have a failure in communication, a failure in technology, a failure in moving parts. So cars, washer machines, appliances, technology, all of the moving parts in our physical realm will be affected by Mercury going retrograde. Hopefully it's not too painful, but since April 26th, we've been given a preview on what we can expect Mercury's retrograde to actually bring us. And for many of us, and I know from my client list, we are already having people return from the past. We're already having old thoughts, old memories, old emotions resurface. We're already seeing cars malfunctioning, breaking down, busted tires. We're watching communication failures. We're watching computers just die, phones be zapped, technology, the internet itself crash. What I will say is that it sounds awful, but retrogrades are nothing to be feared. Retrogrades actually sort us out. Pluto is currently retrograde, trying to sort out the shadow issues, where it is that we're afraid of ourselves, where it is that we've been self-sabotaging ourselves and setting us up for self-destructive behavior. Pluto's job is to rewind and make us reface some of the darkest parts of ourselves so that we can grasp the new element of authority and power from that. We can transform from that, which Pluto, the great transformer, wants us to do. He wants to illuminate for us where the pain, the trauma, the suffering has had to take place in our lives to push us into our own personal power. Mercury, now going retrograde, joining Pluto, is going to have us revisiting some thoughts, ideas, conversations, situations that we thought we might have been done with that need another go. May I remind you that the healing process is not linear, it is a spiral. Sometimes, especially in a retrograde, we have to have the past come back, rear its ugly head in our face because we've evolved. We have a new level of wisdom, of knowledge, of experience under our belts. And sometimes looking at past situations from a different set of eyes can be the best thing. That's how we rewrite our narrative. That's how we rewrite our heart space. And of course, clear that energy out, release that energy from our physical bodies, from our soul self, our heart space, our mental plane, so that we have a different foundation to base our present moment on, because our present self is constantly building the narrative, the reality that we are looking to manifest in a futuristic realm. So Mercury going retrograde, yes, does kind of create a little bit of a cluster F in the brain. We have a lot of mental fog, brain fog, brain farts, if you will. Miscommunications happen. That is one thing. The name of the game that you can absolutely bet your life on is that you're going to have a hard time understanding yourself, questioning everything. Who am I? What am I doing? How did I get here? What is going on? What do I need to learn? Where can I change? All of these questions, right? We have to recognize that we're going to probably not understand what's going on in our physical realms. We're going to be misunderstood. We have to understand that a retrograde means that the planet is going to the underworld, the unconscious realm. Essentially, if you want to think about it, all the planets are driving in the car. Maybe Mercury was at the driver's seat, at the wheel, and somebody drugged him. He's falling asleep at the wheel. Now we got to pull over. We got to put Mercury in the back with Pluto. Now they're both drugged. They're in the unconscious realm. They're having some really trippy experiences, bringing up some past elements that they need to revisit that they wouldn't have normally revisited if they weren't drugged, if they weren't, put in a unconscious state of mind in order to be open enough to revisit the pain, the past, the suffering, the trauma that essentially has built you into the person that you currently are. Many of us compartmentalize our fear, our trauma, and the retrogrades bring it back for us to kind of revisit in a way, maybe in your dream state, maybe just, snap of the fingers and suddenly you have a thought pop into your head that you haven't thought of. And of course, notoriously, you have people from the past reappear in order to process what it is that went down between y'all and where it is that you can take the life lesson from it now that you have a different understanding, a different perception, a different awareness of some of the life lessons and the soul contracts that we've all experienced. So Mercury going retrograde in Gemini is going to be a battlefield of the mind, and we're not going to have a whole lot of control over it, especially being in eclipse season. This is taking place smack dab in the middle of eclipse season. And may I remind you, eclipse season means that we are at the mercy of the universe's divine script, sorting us out, putting us on the path that we were meant to be all along, that we should have chosen for ourselves, but failed to do. And so we are definitely out of the realm of control. That's why everything feels very chaotic, like a whirlwind situation here. And now that Mercury is going retrograde, we can only expect to add to that confusion. So we are going to be in this second retrograde of 2022 up until about June 3rd. And that is actually when we are going to have Mercury awake again from his slumber, from his drug state, and he will wake up in Taurus energy. So we just got a couple of degrees into Gemini's energy. We're actually going retrograde at 4 degrees. So now we have to go back through those 4 degrees that we just accomplished. And we're even going to creep back into Taurus energy. So to give you a big picture of what this actually means, we have to kind of recognize that the fact that when we wake up, when our mental senses come online in Taurus energy, we're going to be very grounded out. Taurus energy is an earth energy. We just came from a whole month of Mercury being in Taurus where we were kind of, we had our blinders on, focused on one thing, building, creating, giving birth to new ideas, new long-term plans. Many of us did not get all of those plans or ideas even seeded in, anchored in, or initiated. And there's a lot of other planets that are a key factor in why it is that we've kind of been stunted in our growth. But basically, we are going to review and revisit a lot of our ideas, a lot of our long-term plans, a lot of our thoughts on what it is that we thought we knew, what we thought we were doing while Mercury is asleep and retrograde. And then we awake and suddenly we have an epiphany, an aha moment, and we get back to nose to the grindstone. We put the blinders back on in Taurus energy, and we really get a new narrative, not only a more loving and supportive and encouraging narrative going on in our mental plane, but a different perspective, a different view on what it is that we should be building. Many of us going through the whole self-worth issue right now, really trying to build ourselves up, build our confidence up. And of course, we've had to, because we've had so many endings really taking a hit to our ego identity. And now we're learning how to reinvent ourselves. So when Mercury wakes up in Taurus energy, we're going to have a totally different perspective. We're going to be zoned in on what it is that we really do need to build and create for ourselves. And then, like I said, Mercury will move through those final degrees of Taurus. Once again, we're retracing our steps, making those revisions, having another opportunity to do things right. And then we move back into Gemini again. So we're definitely feeling the rewind and then repositioning, recalibrating, reorganizing, restructuring for the relaunch. That's the way I would like for you to kind of think about it. So there's a lot going on in our mental plane, a lot of memories coming up. Our dreamscapes are definitely going to provide us with a lot of material that we're going to have to be triggered and activated in, especially from a past trauma situation, in order for us to pre-process that in a better way, a better understanding. And yeah, we're going to kind of review how it is that we got here. We're going to be gifted another opportunity to repair some of the situations that have fallen apart, and kind of put us in a position for a redo. I want you to think of all of those words when it comes to a retrograde. Confusion is absolutely necessary. Chaos is absolutely necessary. We have to have a certain level of chaos and confusion to prepare us for clarity and order, which is coming, but it's not coming while Mercury is retrograde. So we want to avoid making some serious commitments. We don't want to sign any contracts. We don't want to make any important decisions. Anything that you sign your life to, you will have to revisit, probably in a negative context. Any decisions, any choices that you make while Mercury is retrograde will have to be revisited, likely in the next retrograde. We want to recognize that this is not a time for initiating new business ideas or beginning new chapters, new projects, because you will run into a lot of frustrating bumps, blockages, challenges, and you will have to redo it many times before it's actually right. We have to recognize that we got to go with the flow. You know, change is inevitable, whether you want to participate in it or not. That is a choice. Either way, we're moving forward. And in order to move forward, sometimes we have to look back, right? And we have other planetary aspects in the cosmos right now that refuse to look back, which means that we're going to have an inner conflict between our heart and our head. This Mercury retrograde is about the division within us in order for us to find a new, comfortable, common ground. We will find that by the time that Mercury wakes up and he is able to take the driver's seat back once again. We just want to be very cautious as we move through Mercury's retrograde. Again, Mercury and Pluto both kind of being retrograde. Pluto has the ability for us to get stuck on obsessive thoughts and negative thinking. Of course, when the pain and the trauma and the suffering comes up for renewal, those memories are flashing back. It's hard to not set up camp there. But just remember that Pluto's retrograde is showing us the dark in order for us to turn that into light and to show us the pain so that we can turn it into power. And Mercury is the mental process that we have to go through, analyzing it, picking apart, offering up a new narrative and perspective in order for us to rewrite the way that things happened so that we're not carrying the trauma in our physical bodies, and basically revising our interpretation of those situations to see them as life lessons instead of punishments. So we have a lot of energy. And then, like I said, that is only the very first aspect, the first major shift that we have going on today, 7:41 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 12 hours later, we have Jupiter moving into Aries. I'm going to ask that you go ahead and you listen to the next astro forecast so that you understand what Jupiter moving into Aries is going to do while Mercury is going retrograde.